Tonight we hear from a mother who wants to know what happened to her son. Sheena Miller's son Michael was found semi-naked face down on a bedroom floor in a Glasgow flat more than a year ago.
My little boy was described as a dead body found in Parkhead for the last 15 months. That's heartbreaking.
Also on tonight's programme, a lawyer for Greater Glasgow and Clyde Health Board tells an inquiry no criticism should be made of the people running the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital.
I would go if I had the chance, I've got to say, yeah. I wouldn't let him stop my fun, hopefully.
Everything he's doing against the world.
Boycott the World Cup over Donald Trump's threats to take control of Greenland.
And coming up in tonight's sport, we'll hear from the Celtic manager Martin O'Neill and Rangers boss Danny Rule ahead of tomorrow's Europa League action.
Hello, I'm Laura Miller. This is Reporting Scotland. A grieving mother has demanded answers after her son's unexplained death in a flat used as Home Office accommodation. Michael Akram was found dead at a property in Glasgow's East End in August 2024 with street Valium in his system. The 37-year-old also had bruising to his face, body and limbs and stab wounds to his leg, possibly inflicted after death. Our social affairs correspondent Chris Clements reports.
He was great. He'd be first on the dance floor. He was just a fun-loving boy, but when he went out that night, the worst night of my life.
Michael Akram, a student nurse, died in August 2024. He'd been at a club in Glasgow before going to a flat in the East End in the early hours. His semi-naked body was discovered in the property the next night. His death remains unexplained. For over a year, his mother Sheena has been demanding answers about what exactly happened on the night he died.
I couldn't even function. My son had broken bones right down to the fibula, stab wounds, he had bruises all over his body, but it's the length of time they left my son dead.
Multiple people had been in the property with Michael, we don't know how many. 19 hours after he arrived, police attended the flat over reports of an assault and robbery with a knife. The occupier, a man from Gambia, was arrested for robbery. Another male, the alleged victim, was taken to hospital. And when officers searched the flat, Michael was found. He'd been dead for several hours.
Looking through the post-mortem report for Michael Akram, it shows that there was street Valium in his system, there was alcohol in his system, but there are other things going on as well. He had bruises to his face, he had bruises to his torso, his limbs. On his right leg, there were 4 small stab wounds, possibly done by a screwdriver. The deepest wound actually fracturing the bone in his leg. The report says that this may have happened after Michael had died. Because of the uncertainty around his tolerance to drugs, because of the uncertainty around their injuries, the report says the death is best regarded as unascertained.
We shared this report with a retired pathologist. The stab wounds were extraordinary, he said. The circumstances were suspicious. If pushed, he said, he'd probably conclude drugs killed Michael Akram, but added it doesn't answer anything due to the odd circumstances around his death. After a year-long probe, police say no criminality has been established, but the new information will be investigated.
I haven't slept. I haven't slept the whole year. I've got, my hair fell out, I've had to wear a wig. Because of I've just absolutely got really out over it. This was my child. This was my firstborn baby. I mean, it's awful. You can't even imagine what it's like. Not getting any answers, and they won't even release his name. My little boy was described as a dead body found in Parkhead for the last 15 months. That's heartbreaking. No mother should have to have done what I've went through.
All of this happened in a flat run by the company Mears Group. It was used as asylum accommodation on behalf of the Home Office. The man arrested for robbery on the day Michael died was in the immigration system. He no longer lives there, and the robbery case was dropped before trial last year. Both Mears and the Home Office said they do not comment on individual cases.
Well, Chris is with me now. Chris, Sheena clearly devastated there. What more do we know about this case?
Well, we know one of the people who Michael met that night, who lived at the flat, who's since moved on. That was a man named James Carter. Now, he was born Abdou Ndao in Gambia, and we understand he was in the immigration system, but we don't know what his current status is. That flat has been used in the Home Office system since at least 2019. Now, Mr Carter was arrested for assault and robbery against another individual on that night at the flat. He was held on remand for a year while that case came to court, and ultimately it was dropped at the trial stage. We understand that the complainer in that case, the alleged victim, was unable to be cited to give evidence. Now, we put a number of questions to Mr Carter directly and through his solicitors. Were drugs being used in the flat? Why wasn't Michael's death reported? What information does he have about how Michael came about those post-mortem stab wounds in his leg? And he did not respond to requests for comment.
So what are authorities saying?
Well, police are saying that the death remains unexplained, that no criminality has been established, but if any new information emerges, that it will be investigated. The Crown said that it understands the deep distress and pain felt by the family. Its investigation concluded no further action required, and it will meet the family next week to discuss these findings. And like the police, it says it has the right to review the case should any further information come to light. Now, as we've just heard, Sheena Miller is unhappy with that outcome, and she believes that there is evidence of criminality, of wrongdoing on the night that her son died.
OK, Chris, thank you. The lawyer for NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde has argued no personal or professional criticism should be made of individuals running the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital when a public inquiry delivers its final report. It's investigating the construction of the campus and its impact on patient safety. During his closing submission, Peter Gray, KC, said not listening to whistleblowers was an organisational failure, but changes had since been made. Our political correspondent Kirsten Campbell was watching.
The public inquiry into the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital was ordered after a number of patient deaths were linked to unusual infections. The Health Board has recently admitted the hospital opened before it was safe. Its lawyer drew a distinction between under-pressure staff who ran the hospital and those who were responsible for its construction.
I would accept that in relation to the management of the project, where the inquiry considers that there have been failings, that individuals should be held to account.
He said the board accepted its criticism of the whistleblowers was neither helpful nor fair, but argued individuals shouldn't be criticised for not taking on board their concerns.
The failure to listen was, in my submission, an organisational failure. And it was one which was based on a culture which it is accepted did not place appropriate emphasis on listening to staff and encouraging the raising of concerns.
Molly Cudahy was one of the patients affected. She died last year, and her dad wants to be sure her experience isn't ignored.
That's what saddened Molly, the fact that they never saw her and never listened to her. So when it comes to the responsibility and accountability, and we've heard that GG&C wish to draw a distinction between the institution and individuals, but of course in order to deliver change, effective change, we need to understand, well, who understood exactly what happened.
The inquiry is nearing its end, with lawyers for the whistleblowers and patients due to make their closing statements tomorrow. Lord Brodie's final report is due later this year. Kirsten Campbell, reporting Scotland, Edinburgh.
To some of the day's other stories now. And the leader of a group which organised months of anti-immigration protests outside a hotel housing asylum seekers has admitted swearing at and abusing a police officer. Conor Graham pled guilty to breach of the peace after an incident outside the Hotel Cladden in Falkirk on the 6th of December. He'll be sentenced in March. A woman has told a court that her former foster parents locked her younger sister in a chicken pen. She was giving evidence via video link in the trial of Douglas and Barbara Daniel at Glasgow Sheriff Court. They're accused of treating children cruelly between 1986 and 1991 at their home in Parkhead. The woman, who was 9 at the time, said she had to stand back and listen to her 4-year-old sister screaming. The Daniels deny all the charges against them and the trial continues. And the Scottish Government is urging the TV watchdog Ofcom to throw out STV's plans for big changes to news programmes. STV is proposing to end the separate service for the north of Scotland. In its response to Ofcom's consultation on whether to allow the changes, the Government says it is unequivocally opposed to the plans. STV argues that TV viewing figures are falling and its plans will ensure the news service remains sustainable. Now, you will remember the jubilation last year when Scotland's men's team qualified for the World Cup finals for the first time in 28 years. How can we forget? Well, fans have spent months making plans to travel to the US for the matches, despite the costs and controversy over ticket prices. But following President Donald Trump's threats to take control of Greenland, there have been calls for Scotland and England to boycott this summer's tournament. So, should they? Ailey Davis has been asking fans.
Celebrations, tears of joy, emotions running high, and the realisation that Scotland now has the opportunity to perform in some of America's largest stadiums on the world's biggest football stage. Tensions are rising between the US and Europe over Donald Trump's plans to take control of Greenland, but the Tartan Army's desire to get to America could be dashed if calls for a boycott materialise. The SNP's Westminster leader, Stephen Flynn, who's planning to attend the tournament, said a boycott was low down the priority list. Others are calling for different measures.
The easiest plan B would be to move the games probably to Mexico and into Canada, where there's been no fuss. It's business as normal. If that isn't enough and we need a plan C, then I hope it never happens, and I don't want it to happen, but it might be that the World Cup is postponed, because why would we want to go to an aggressor and celebrate the World Cup?
There were mixed views in Inverness today.
Serious matters of life and death should be handled by politicians. You shouldn't need athletes to take time out from their careers to do the things politicians should be doing.
I think it's maybe a little bit scary for Scotland because we're finally there, which would be a shame to kind of jeopardise that. But I think we've got to do what's good for the majority of people.
I would go if I had the chance, I've got to say, yeah. I wouldn't let them stop my fun, hopefully.
We need to send a very strong message to Donald Trump that everything he's doing against the world. And there are things that's bigger than just entertainment and sport.
From a personal point of view, I wouldn't go while this administration's in power. So I can see merits in it. I also think, you've waited for 30 odd years. You really don't want to give that up. And I think that's fair enough.
After 28 years of waiting to get to the World Cup, a lot now depends on what happens in the next 5 months. Ailey Davis reporting Scotland, Inverness.
Well, our political editor Glenn Campbell is at Hollywood for us tonight. Glenn, we were hearing a range of views there, but do you think a boycott would even be effective?
Well, sporting boycotts can draw attention to major issues of international concern. And it may be worth pointing out that the president of football's world governing body, FIFA, is a close associate of President Trump and perhaps could have some influence. But when it comes to countries, to states registering a protest, there are other options. The French President Emmanuel Macron has suggested that European countries prepare a trade bazooka in order to hit back against the United States. So Keir Starmer here in the UK has warned against hurtling into a trade war with America, while stressing that Britain will not yield, he said, in its support for Greenland under the threat of tariffs. Keir Starmer has invested a lot of diplomatic time and effort trying to keep President Trump sweet. And now that relations have soured over Greenland, I think he wants to try that bit more to engage constructively in the hope that that is the best way of protecting the UK's security and economic interests, given that they're so bound up with the United States.
And President Trump has been speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos today. What has he been saying?
Well, I think there was some relief in the room when, during an hour-long address, President Trump made clear that he would not use force to take Greenland. However, that doesn't mean he's any less determined to achieve that outcome of ownership. He's called for immediate negotiations on that very issue. And from his point of view, he thinks this is a very small ask, because of the enormous contribution that the United States makes to the defence of Europe through NATO. He said that Denmark and its allies have two options. One, to say yes, for which he said the US would be very appreciative. The other, to say no. And if that is the answer, he said, we will remember, which to me, and I'm sure to many others, sounded like something of a threat.
OK, Glenn at Holyrood, thank you. Tonight's main news again. A grieving mother has demanded answers after her son's unexplained death in a flat used as Home Office accommodation. Mika Lakram was found dead at a property in Glasgow's East End in August 2024.
And coming up in tonight's sport, Rangers boss Danny Rule admits he's hoping for a statement signing before the end of the January window.
Now, the developer behind a huge wind farm planned off the north coast of Scotland says it won't be built unless what they describe as unfair transmission charges are overhauled. The 125-turbine west of Orkney development had hoped to generate enough electricity to power 2 million homes by 2029. But the charge for connecting to the grid, which is highest in Argyll and the north of Scotland, means it can't compete against wind farms in England. Well, our environment correspondent Kevin Keane joins us now. Kevin, just explain how these transmission charges work then.
Well, Laura, this is a charging policy that's used as a mechanism to pay for the pylons and the cables that carry the electricity from where it's generated to where it's consumed. And it was designed to encourage fossil fuel power stations to be built as close as possible to where the populations are, and so it heavily favours places like London and the south of England. In fact, down there generators are paid to connect their schemes to the grid, whereas here those same generators have to pay for those connections, and that's long been seen as a significant barrier to the expansion of Scotland's renewables sector. Now, this consortium behind the West of Orkney development, which is a project that's fully consented and ready to be built tomorrow, say they've now had to press pause on any future investment in this because of these charges.
It's an unfair system for projects located in the north of Scotland. Now, obviously, that's where the highest wind speeds are, and therefore the most renewable power can be generated. The old system, though, results in an outcome which means that it commercially cannot be competitive in an auction. So yeah, it penalises us heavily.
Now, there's a lot of investment clearly going into the transmission network just now to expand and upgrade it, and obviously that has to be paid for somehow, but the industry here says that cost needs to be spread across the UK. The UK government says it is looking into this issue as part of a wider review into the wholesale energy market.
OK, Kevin in Aberdeen, thank you. OK, let's get tonight's sport now with Sheila. European football.
Yeah, it's back after a wee break for Christmas, and we've got lots of signing news to bring you as well this evening, yes. Hello there. Czech striker Tomas Chivanchara is set to become Celtic's second signing of the transfer window. The 28-year-old is undergoing a medical, and Parkhead boss Martin O'Neill says he expects to complete a deal, possibly in time for Sunday's Premiership clash against Hearts. Celtic trained on their own pitch this morning before flying out to Italy for tomorrow's vital Europa League match with Bologna. The Glasgow side are currently just inside the qualification line to progress to the knockout stage, but will need points from their remaining 2 games. O'Neill has been speaking in the last hour about Celtic's incoming striker and their European hopes.
He's quick and he's agile, and he wants to prove himself. And but if you think that he's the immediate answer to any sort of problem we have, I'm not sure that I would want to throw that sort of responsibility on him. I think that we're well aware that we've got a big fight in our hands from a side that wants to try and make it to the top 8. It is away from home. It's a difficult task for us, but all we can do is really put absolutely heart and soul into it, and that's what we intend to do.
Well, there could be a familiar face in the Bologna lineup tomorrow because Scotland midfielder Lewis Ferguson is their captain. He moved abroad almost 4 years ago, and although he hasn't been starting every match of late, his move has proven to be a huge success. Ferguson, who's never beaten Celtic in 16 attempts while playing for Aberdeen and Hamilton, has been reflecting on his time in Italy.
Different country, different language, just, everything sort of changes, your life changes, and you become a man, and you learn every day. And I think over the past 4 years I can say that first and foremost I became a better person, and I've definitely became a better footballer, and that's in terms of everything, physicality, tactically, technically. I've learned a lot.
Now, the Rangers head coach Danny Rule says he's happy with the club's business in the transfer window, but admits they're still on the lookout for an exciting addition before the end of the month. The Ibrox club have already landed Toche Chukwuani, Tua Romans and Andreas Skov-Olsen in an attempt to bolster their Premiership title challenge. None of them are available for tomorrow's Europa League tie with Ludogorets. Rangers can't progress in the competition, but if they win it, it would be their 7th straight victory.
I think you can imagine I knock every day on the door of the recruitment and ask something new. But we made so far a good job. I think this is good to have these 3 players now here. And then what I said, it's about now timing. We have a clear idea, and now we have to wait. Maybe there's a domino on another club, and then we can take this opportunity for us. But this is now the next 7 to 10 days. It's you have to be ready when you have to be ready.
Now to domestic action, and Livingston manager David Martindale described the video assistant referees as amateur after St Mirren equalised in the closing minutes to deny his side their first win since August. Robbie Muirhead gave Livy a second-half lead before Alex Gogic drew the 10th place Saints level, but Martindale felt one of his players was fouled in the build-up. The result leaves Livingston 3 points adrift at the bottom of the Premiership table.
I'm really angry, players are really angry, staff are really angry. But I'm the one that's got to kind of deliver a composed message. I need to stop talking about this, but what do? What if I don't voice my opinion to the broadcasters, that message is not getting out. So I think there's a clear foul on Joshua Brunet. We don't get it.
We're through in the next round of the Cup. We've got another point away from the bottom, and we've got new players coming in with energy, so that gives us real hope going forward.
Finally, some tennis news, and Cameron Norrie says he's excited at the prospect of taking on world number 3 Sasha Zverev in the 3rd round of the Australian Open. He'll be the last remaining Brit in the singles competition. The Scot won the first 2 sets against Emilio Nava, but his American opponent took the 3rd. However, Norrie made sure of a win in the 4th set tiebreak that was interrupted by a rain delay. His tie with Zverev is likely to take place on Friday. And let's hope I've got my voice back by then.
Well, let's hope so. There's a drink of water waiting for you. Thank you, Sheila. You will like this next story, by the way. Because coming up on Reporting Scotland News at 7, the Morningside girls football team in Edinburgh who spoke up when they were awarded an inferior trophy to the boys.
We felt really sad because we thought that we were getting like one of the biggest trophies, because we had this like whole tournament and it was like a really big thing and everyone's been talking about it, and then they just come out and give us this thing, and you can see at the bottom it even has this like sort of glue at the bottom, and that was really hurtful because it basically was saying that we weren't worth it.
Good on her for speaking up. OK, Christopher is here with the weather. Beautiful there, but
Yes.
we do have a bit of serious weather coming in, do we?
Cloud and a lot of rain. Actually, warnings are already in force. Laura, thanks very much indeed. Very good evening to you. Yeah, we had some sunshine earlier, but then the cloud streamed in from the south and the rain followed. And over the next few days, there will be a fair amount of wet weather around. We have low pressure situated towards the southwest and a strong southeasterly wind driving in that rain, particularly across the northeast. So there is already a Met Office yellow warning in force, but from midnight that is elevated to amber. From Perth north to Aboyne, we could well see some surface and river flooding as a result. And you can see why as we head through the course of this evening, overnight and tomorrow, that rain continues across the northeast. Windy around the southwest coast and gales continuing in the far north and northeast. Some big waves on the coast as well. Temperatures overnight tonight around 5 to 7 Celsius in towns and cities, but pretty cloudy, wet and windy. And that's how we start the day tomorrow, with that wet weather still in play, just beginning to extend its way westwards as we head through towards lunchtime and the afternoon through parts of west central Scotland and the southwest. And those winds remain strong, particularly around northern and eastern coasts. This is the snapshot mid-afternoon tomorrow. You can see the black arrows there indicating wind gusts. The rain concentrated in the west and southwest at this stage. Something a little bit drier in the northeast, but you'll see some wet weather once again later on tomorrow. Still windy around the north coast and through the Northern Isles, and again some big waves. Perhaps the odd brighter glimpse at times across Shetland. Tomorrow evening, that rain band continues to work its way northwards again, turning increasingly wintry across parts of the northeast. We could well see a significant amount of snow on higher road routes through Grampian overnight tomorrow night and for first thing on Friday. So that could cause some issues on the transport network. And then through the day on Friday, once again, it's cloudy and wet. Again, it's the northeast bearing the brunt of that rain and mountain snow. Towards the west coast, something drier and brighter. The winds just a notch down and the temperatures a notch down. And that really is the theme for the coming weekend, with east, if not northeasterly winds setting in, turning things rather chilly, but still a north-south split in terms of temperatures. So you can see on Saturday and Sunday, Inverness and Aberdeen around 4 degrees. Further south, not quite as cold, but cloudy for all, with some outbreaks of rain at times. That's the forecast for now. Laura.
Thank you, Christopher. Now, tonight's main news again. And a grieving mother has demanded answers after her son's unexplained death in a flat used as Home Office accommodation. Mika Lakram was found dead at a property in Glasgow in August last year. And a lawyer for Greater Glasgow and Clyde Health Board has told an inquiry no criticism should be made of the people running the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital. And that is Reporting Scotland for now. The late news is at 10:30 tonight. Until then, from everyone on the team, do enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.